In the early days, what Chinese companies wanted was money and finance. They've got the money now, they've got the finance. They're looking for technology, they're looking for product they don't have. And if they feel that you have it, they will be more than cooperative. They will help set you up. They will open doors which you hadn't even dreamed about. But you've got to persuade them that you're the person who they want. For most companies, at some stage, they will be looking at the government, either to understand policy or to get the right permission to do business or whatever. So one needs at least a relationship with the local government, at least where is, and also if your business is big enough, sometimes with the central ministries, for example, the Ministry of Commerce, or if you're in a particular sector, the ministry which deals with your business. So establishing your relationships with government, with insiders in the territory, keeping that contact, keeping that communication, keeping your ear to the gossip is very, very important. China's not quite the closed country you might think it is. Chinese regulations and laws on the commercial side have been developing since the 1980s. It started with the joint venture laws, and now there's a body of commercial law which is generally enforced, and it's generally very good. Regulations, however, do follow government prerogatives, and they can change from time to time. The focus of policy changes too. In the 1980s and the 1990s, they were interested in manufacturing, they were interested in getting technology. Now, they have the industrial capability, and it's not so easy for companies to come in. They're very keen to develop the service industry. So regulations are in fact made easier for us. But there's a saying in China, everything is possible, but nothing is easy, and that applies throughout. I've sometimes thought that China is, for a foreign businessman, is rather like a jungle or a desert. You need a Sherpa or a guide to help you through the minefield, particularly when you're establishing relationships, be it with government or with a foreign company. Just so that you understand where, what the rules are. Which means that one has to be perhaps more attentive to relationships than which one could just take on trust value in the West. In China, you have to work on them. For China, intelligence is perhaps the most valuable weapon a country can have in its arsenal to tackle with a market which is so complicated in many ways. So you've got to find a system where you don't take anything on trust, but you do your research. You go to China, you see it for yourself. You don't make a decision in Auckland or Wellington before you yourself have seen what is there on the ground. For me, if there's one thing a company should do in China, is to invest in due diligence. Due diligence, understanding, knowledge, intelligence, that is what will put you on the right track. China has been growing at the rate of 10% ever since the 1980s. All through that period, every year there's a doomsayer saying that we are going to see the end of China, and it doesn't happen. I personally believe this Chinese growth will continue for a long time, partly because the government wants it to. They have a sort of mantra that it needs 8%, otherwise there'll be social unrest. There are economists within China who say perhaps you could slow down a bit and the country would perhaps grow at a more normal rate of growth, and this might be less artificial. There are opportunities for companies to do business in China who can satisfy that enormous aspiration which has been unleashed. The story of China's progress has mainly been a coastal one. This has been where the investment has been for the last 20 years. China's aim now is to open up the West, and wealth has indeed spread, but it's still got a long way to go. In the coast, if you just look at income per capita, it stands about 38,000 renminbi compared to 18,000 in the West, and that's an average. But if you take particular places like Shanghai, income per capita there is 78,000. In the poorer province of Guizhou, you're talking 9,000 per head, which is almost at the poverty level. So, I mean, there's great disparity. The future is clear. The infrastructure is being built into the West, and over 10 years, this will diminish. But at the moment, we're not there yet.